Welcome to Digital Learning, an initiative of Directorate of Collegiate Education, Government of Karnataka. In this session, the worm poem written by Nissim Ezekiel will be discussed in the context of the textual questions. This poem, The Worm by Nissim Ezekiel, is prescribed for second semester BA General English, Bengaluru North University. I am Nandana NG, Assistant Professor of English, GFGC, Bagepalli. The contents of this presentation, as usual, learning objectives, session outcome, recap of the previous session, comprehension, analysis of the textual questions, and finally, multiple choice questions. The learning objectives are we'll discuss in detail the importance of testing questions. Remember, there are two types of questions: teaching questions and testing questions. Teaching questions are asked in the course of teaching or in the classroom, wherein the student and the teacher can discuss about the particular topic. Testing questions are those which you can expect in the exams. In fact, testing questions are used by the teacher to test the amount of knowledge gained by the student. We'll also have an analysis and explanation on how to answer short answer questions for 2 marks, paragraph answer questions for 5 marks, and essay answer questions for 10 marks. So, at the end of the session, the student can expect to know the importance of testing questions. He or she will be in a better position on how to write short answer questions for 2 marks, key points for paragraph answer questions 5 marks, descriptive answers or essay answer questions for 10 marks. Let us try to recapitulate whatever we have learned in the previous session. In the previous session, the entire poem, the worm, the central idea of the poem and the themes were discussed in detail. So, to sum it up, the central idea of the poem can be put in these points. It is ruled by oppositions and paradoxes. In fact, we can say that both the human being and the worm are paradoxical to each other. Man and the objects of nature are causing harm to each other. In the worm, there is a conflict between nature and man, though inspired by the worm, he is unable to emulate it. And coming to the themes, the 4 prominent themes that can be seen in the course of the poem are God versus human supremacy, creation and destruction, the symbol of fear and self-doubt, self-knowledge and self-awareness. Short answer questions, 2 marks. The first question, answer the following in 1 or 2 sentences. First question, what makes the worm to move towards a drier place? The answer is, directed by an inner eye, the worm moves towards a drier place. Second question, how is it possible for the worm to move straight? The answer, the worm was able to move straight by crawling with astounding strength and directed by an inner eye towards a drier place. Third question, which route did the poet follow to reach his destination? Answer, while the worm followed a straight route, the poet followed absurd and devious routes to reach his destination. Fourth question, in what way can the poet emulate the worm's directness? Answer, the speaker accepts that he can emulate the worm's directness only in anger and hence he killed the worm. Fifth question, what does the poet's action depict? The poet kills the worm out of jealousy. Further, he has more trust in the follies of the common man than in the wisdom of the uncommon man. Coming to the paragraph answer questions for 5 marks, make sure you write at least a page length of answer and follow the format of an introduction, a body and a conclusion. Now these are the questions given in the text. The first question, how did the worm reach its destination? So in the first 2 lines you can write the introduction to the poem. You can start the answer by saying that the worm poem is written by Nissim Ezekiel, who is considered a pioneer of modern English poetry. And then you can start your answers. Second question, what does the worm prove by its movement? Here you can show how the worm, though is simple in its creation, yet guided by its inner eye, is able to go to its destination in a straightforward manner. how the worm is far off better than the human beings. Third question, why did the poet crush the worm? Here you will have to literally justify the speaker's actions there. You will have to start with how on one morning while it was raining, the poet saw the worm reaching towards its destination, that is a drier place, and how when he saw the worm moving towards the destination is a straight route, he was consumed with jealousy, because unlike the worm, he is unable to go in a straight manner anywhere for that matter, be it his goals or other destination. So when he sees that the worm whom he considers to be an inferior creation is better off than him, out of jealousy, unable to accept the fact that the same God who created a cunning, intelligent person like him can also create a simple worm which seems better off than him, he is unable to accept that, and out of bitterness he crushes the worm. Fourth question, how did the poet justify his action? Justify means how does he defend his action? The poet killed the worm out of bitterness. But how does he justify it? He says that he is explaining to God, how can you create a worm which is better off than his own cunningness? So he is trying to tell God there by saying that he should not have done that. In fact, he as a human being is better off than the worm. And he says that by killing the worm, he is able to stop its mocking victory, and somewhere that gives him the satisfaction. Coming to the essay answer questions for 10 marks, the answers should cover 1.5 or 2 pages for that matter, and make sure you follow this format. In first introduction, around 2 or 3 lines of introduction. If it is a story, introduce the author and 2 lines of introduction. And then coming to the main body or the main answer, write the answer in 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'll include relevant examples, etc. And last, conclusion. So this is how an essay answer should be. The following questions can be expected on the poem The Worm by Nissim Ezekiel. Write a note on Ezekiel's attitude towards nature in the worm. Here you can say that Ezekiel is the poet who is represented by the speaker in the poem. So in fact, you are writing about the speaker's attitude in the poem. So more or less you will have to write the entire narration there, how the speaker saw the worm, how he was consumed by jealousy when he saw the worm moving towards its direction, and how unable to accept the fact that the worm is better off than him, he crushed the worm with bitterness, and then he also reports the fact that he has killed it. The conflict between man and nature can be clearly seen here. Discuss the use of irony in the worm. Yes, it is quite ironical that the human being, the Homo sapien, the human species, who considers himself to be superior, is actually jealous of a small worm. This is the most ironical aspect here. Instead of being inspired and accepting the flaws, the man, unable to accept that the worm is better off than him, he kills the worm. Multiple choice question. The first question, where was the worm crawling to? Towards the speaker, to a drier place, inside the house, or none of the above? Answer is option B, to a drier place. In the poem, the speaker realizes that he is blinder than the god, fish, worm, or bird, and the answer is option C, worm. Which route did the poet speaker follow to reach his destination? Zigzag, straight, haphazard, absurd, and devious. And the answer is option D, absurd and devious. The speaker kills the worm in happiness, boredom, bitterness, or revolt. And the answer is option C, bitterness. Why did the poet or speaker kill the worm? The options provided are to stop its easy mocking victory, to save himself, both or none of the above. Remember, this is the crux of the poem as to why the speaker poet killed the worm. The speaker poem killed the worm because he was unable to accept that the worm was going in a straight manner towards his destination. Somewhere the person started feeling threatened. He felt that the worm was mocking at him. So he killed the worm to stop its easy mocking victory. So the answer is to stop its easy mocking victory. References used for the presentation. Thank you.